The next poem is The Journey by David White. Above the mountains, the geese turn into the light again, painting their black silhouettes against the open sky. Sometimes everything has to be inscribed across the heavens, so you can find the one line already written inside you. Sometimes it takes a great sky to find that small, bright, and indescribable wedge of freedom in your own heart. Sometimes, with the bones of the black sticks left when the fire has gone out, someone has written something new in the ashes of your life. You are not leaving, you are arriving.
We invite you to rise in body or spirit, and let's join.
The farmer poet, whom we love, and we love this poem too, The Peace of Wild Things. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night in fear for what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things, who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. And for a time I rest in the grace of the world and am free.
I give to you, I do not give as the world gives. So do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not let them be afraid. Friends, throughout this summer, we have been reflecting on poems that often set our hearts and imaginations free. We've been invited to wander off in far green fields to listen for and admire the faint beating of the monarch's wings. We've journeyed through seasons of grief and to the mountaintops of hope. And often, for me, poetry, much like fantasy or fiction, it is a vehicle in which I escape some of the hardships of this world. Poems are a kite that I embrace and sail off to for a time, to find myself free in perhaps a different way than Wendell Berry was quoting here in this poem. But today, we are exploring how poems can not only serve as a kite, but as an anchor, as something that can keep us tethered, centered, and grounded when all else in life begins to get hectic. But we're going to get started in a rather odd place, which is an explanation of why I must always keep this digital thermometer in my 4-year-old's room. Now, this all started a couple years ago when we began to think about having baby number 2. And at that point in where Daddy was doing as much of story time and bedtime, mostly because Avery did not want to change. But we knew that change we must, because if we were able to have baby number 2, our lives would surely be changing. And so we experimented and played around with how to get into a new ritual where Avery would have a little time with Laura downstairs, maybe read a book, and then Daddy would carry her upstairs, which is very important. Mama can't be seen walking away. We have to carry Avery upstairs. 2 years later, which is whatever silly or fun things we did that day, we would act out while going up the stairs. So if we went to the zoo and saw a giraffe, I will carry Avery with our dinner, then I would carry up Avery like a bowl of soup, and she would curl into a ball and spill over the sides. It's a new thing every day, frankly. Now we are getting to the point where it's frankly becoming a lot of work, and I find myself huffing and puffing as I get to the top of our stairs, whole hot mug of tea in my body, even before I grab onto that large. And I know that things are okay, and yet I feel differently. When things get heated, quite literally in this case, sure, when things get heated, sometimes we need something to check in with to make sure that we are not overreacting or misinterpreting things in the heat of the rife with difficulty and anxiety about the temperature of the room. I'm talking about things like, I am loved, or I matter, or they are loved and matter too, or the fact that we all make mistakes, that none of us are perfect, and that we can get through hard things. We've wise adults along the way when we are and whose we are, and subtly All of those sacred promises that we nurture here in a place or inadequacy or that pit in your stomach type of fear. We've all been there. Sadly, some of us remain there for seasons of our lives, misremembering. There was a period in my adult life, a period before my coming here to St. Luke, when I found myself newly prone to such waves of anxiety and shame. I won't go into the details of what was behind this shift in my baseline. New to me and incredibly difficult. And while I probably kept up a pretty cool face on the outside, on the inside I was really struggling. Feeling stuck and overwhelmed, and from there, anxious and unsure, and I was losing sight of who I am. In Episcopalian churches is known as a Cradle Conference. It's a chance for a week and a half long Sabbath of sorts to get away and reflect in an intentional environment to focus on vocational well-being, physical well-being, emotional well-being, and financial well-being. Basically, it was a wellness retreat that came into my life in a time when I needed it most. And throughout the week, we were charged with creating a sacred mission statement or a sacred reminder that we could take with us back to wherever we're heading, so that we will remember some of the practices and promises of wellness that we made that week. What I wrote was this. It was 3 things. First is remember who you are. The second was return to joy. And the third was dare to see yourself as whole. Those 3 simple lines, they became my own personal mantra and poem. Remember who you are. Return to joy. Dare to see yourself as whole. You see, I was, for the first time in my life, in the midst of this place of anxiety, I was losing sight of who I was, trying to please others, trying to live up to expectations, maybe that I was putting on myself. It doesn't matter. But I was struggling to be grounded and not as what everyone around was looking for from me. And I began to lose sight of myself. And so that first phrase, remember who you are, in many ways was a calling back to the self. Much like many people in this congregation, I was deeply interested in issues of justice and equity, and I found myself chasing after every single cause of the day. And this was around, life became very tough. And if you were interested in pursuing causes of justice, there was infuriating, because of course they were. An important part of community organizing and advocacy and justice work. And so return to joy was a reminder that when I am, that is true whether or not I am achieving the things I want to achieve in my life. We are each challenged to believe, as people of faith, that we are already loved and worthy just for who we are. For myself, that was hard to see, and so I would repeat those words. Anchor in a time when I found myself quickly being thrown down a stream that I was worried I might not be able to recover from. And so I held those words carefully. As we heard in The Journey by David White, sometimes everything has to be inscribed across the heavens so that you can find the one line already written inside of you. Today I share this, not because my words that were my anchor are important for you, though maybe they may resonate with you. I share them, though, because I think it is important for each of us to find what is our anchor. And the great thing about a mantra, a prayer, a poem, in our minds, in our hearts, and eventually in our bodies, so that we can return to them when we are feeling lost and overwhelmed. I know when we took a walk a number of years back, I think it was a time just after Avery was born, because I, in fact, remember deciding to memorize The Peace of the Wild Things by Wendell Berry, which you read earlier, because it was one that you have memorized and often found yourselves reciting. And when I found myself facing a new challenge in life with our firstborn, who really struggled to sleep at night and would wake up every 30 minutes to an hour for a long reminder to let go and to practice some acceptance. We are all navigating a fairly new and perhaps still emerging season of life. Because in many ways we always are, just retired. There are some here who are newly caregivers for someone they love dear. There are others who are all of this is the turmoil of politics in a massive global pandemic and the great in our minds and our bodies. That it can be easy to lose our way and lose sight. I invite you to consider if there's some type of reference in your life that you can come back to. Maybe it's a poem or a mantra. I'd like to welcome up Mike one more time to share another poem.
And again, my use of poetry weeks ago, I said, no, I don't think I'll do that. But it just reminded me the idea to recite poetry, because I had never done that. I remembered my college friends who went to good. I would do that memorization work when I was on a walk or a run. And it so happened, whatever the poem was, you would recite it over and over again. And I noticed that when I did that, I started to hear it differently. And not only that, if I was running, because of the pace of my running, and I keep looking for one more teacher. If you want to learn about the sea, it
Thank you, David. Thank you, Mike. Brennan, for those words. What a morning. Good morning, everyone. It is you that if you would like to give to support the ministries here at St. Luke, you can do so in a variety of ways. We have our basket by the door that takes those checks, if you still write some checks and like to do that. Or if you like the newfangled gadgets on our website, you can give directly through with a credit card. And we also have an app if you want to use an app. Set that up. I've got mine on automatic delivery. And our seasonal newsletter came out. It should be in your email boxes. If it's not, if you don't remember seeing it a couple of weeks ago, well, that might be because we had a little email list failure recently, and that she thought you were on. But she may have overlooked one or two of you. And so if you didn't receive that, if you haven't been receiving our weekly emails for the last couple of weeks, check out your email. And if you don't see it, just send Ann an email. Say, hey, I'd like to get back on that email list. That's office. School class for our children's programs. For Sunday schools, she's recorded. She's been... Luke Sunday School program, thank you for your willingness to engage wholeheartedly. Sandbox Retail Store. Anna, you are asked a very natural and very important question. Should we sort the shovels? Engagement with the children. Secondly, I have been witness, Chris writes, to Anna's engagement in the spiritual education and development of the children. Every Sunday, she creates, sometimes on the spur of the moment, short prayers or blessings that relate to the Bible lesson of the morning and, again, speak directly to the children. It has been a pleasure working with you. Blessings on your way, Miss Chris. A little token. It's not going to buy you a textbook, but it'll be together in the spirit of prayer. For the Staples family as they pray in solidarity and endurance for a long and difficult road, a new life to be found in new patterns. And we say together, this is our prayer.
I'm asking for the other Titanic shoulder. She's a high-risk pregnancy. She's moved up here from the Dominican Republic and is living in my basement. She'll be here for the duration of her pregnancy, which will happen in mid-November. But so I'm doing a lot of caregiving on several different levels, but we appreciate your support. Thanks to all the St. Lukers.
Cindy, it is a joy to see you this morning, and we pray with you with your new robust for the successful birth of two beloved
newspaper on Saturday.
We say together, this is our prayer.
I'm Lucille Goodwin. I'd like to give thanks for bad things that don't happen. Even when you fall in a hole and able to climb back out and walk back.
But the Jewish Community Center has asked me to teach 4 half-hour classes for exercise and yoga with preschool kids. And I was thinking of Brennan's creative dramatics on the way up. I'll be doing creative dramatics, yoga, and exercise with these little kids, and it's exciting, but it's going to be quite a
joy to be inspired for many more years to come. With gratitude and love in our hearts, we say together, this is our prayer. Holy One, fill us with the peace that is surrounding us through the woods. May we hold that peace in our lives when we are pulled in so many directions. With gratitude for the saints in our midst, with gratitude for the roads that we walk, even when we stumble and fall, to find peace amid the pain, oh God. That great gift of stillness, fill us that we may continue forward as we together speak the words taught to us, inspired anew through the poet John Newell. Beginning, ground of all being, mother of life, father of the universe, your name is sacred beyond speaking. May we know your presence. May your longings birth community. Forgive us the falseness of what we have done, as we forgive those who are untrue to us. Do not forsake us in our time of conflict, but lead us into new beginnings. For the light of life, the vitality of life, and the glory of life are yours, now and forever. Amen. Beloved, let us rise one more time in body or spirit as we are called and able for our closing hymn.
Before they're said, you know my need and I am fed. You give me life, you know my ways, my strength, my path for all my days, my strength, my path for all my days. If I should fly beyond the dawn, darkness will not overcome if I lie down. Every thought, each word we say, the whole of time, the present day, are held within your mighty hand, too wonderful to comprehend, too wonderful. Mend my heart and free my voice from fear released. I will rejoice. Oh, search me, God, my spirit cries.
And so, dear friends, may words, may promises of peace and love arise within us. And may we go forth.
My